again, it's Denise and Nia. Just kidding again, but Denise and Nia. And we have a very special guest today. Nia, it's good to see you. You're on the other side of the camera.
Yes, I am not in our regular studio today, but I'm here nonetheless, making it work. Happy to be here.
She's making it work. Well, we're post Nia's birthday, so I think she's still in celebration mode, and we're going to celebrate today by bringing you someone really special. Andrea is a phenomenal flautist. I think I said that correctly.
Thank you.
She's phenomenal. I saw her in one of the iconic, I would say, jazz clubs in the Washington, D.C. area. I couldn't first believe what I was seeing. Because I majored in voice in college, so music is a big thing for me. And I remember the years of the 70s when some of the great jazz musicians of the 60s and 70s, and I remember all that. But I've never seen a woman hold down a flute the way that Andrea did. Boy, were those riffs something else. And I think you mesmerized the audience. I mean, you just did. And you just don't see women on the stage when it comes to jazz. And I'm sure you have that experience yourself. So I wanted to bring you on for a couple of reasons. One, because clearly you're leading, you're expressing in an arena of music where women are not normally there. But second, just your expression itself is so centering. I felt so centered in myself when I was listening to you. Centered in a lot of ways, centered in the music, centered in the idea of knowing here's a woman doing something that most women don't do. And three, I guess the third thing was just centered by the beauty of what you brought to the stage. So those are some of the reasons why we invited you.
Thank you.
We have a module, a formula called the Spiral Leadership Model. The Spiral Leadership Model is designed as a template for women to follow in leadership. And in the middle of that spiral is a little bit like if you think about a hurricane or a tornado, the eye of the storm is always centered. And
Right.
we like to use that model as an example of women just find your center, find who you are, and be centered in that. And let everything come from that space, So I wanted to throw that out there too, because the Spiral Leadership Model is the backbone of our Women Express seminars and the book that will be coming out soon. But I also just wanted, again, to say, noticing you really put me in the middle of my spiral. It was very
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I want to hear, Andrea, from you a little bit about how you got here, your early career, maybe some formative experiences, but give us a little insight on who are you?
Oh, okay. Well, I started taking piano lessons when I was 6. And the teacher, Mr. Janowski and Mr. Nasser, both told my parents that I could play any rhythmic music, any jazz. So, I mean, that meant nothing to me. You're a 6-year-old, you're a 7-year-old. All you want to do is like go out and play, So that was fine. I mean, the piano lessons were kind of, I had to do them, so it wasn't as much fun. I'm a very free spirit, so it was kind of restrictive for me. But when I was 10, the music teacher in school went around to try to, get people to take lessons. And he said, "Oh, do you want to play the flute? You'll get out of class." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's good."
That's always a reason.
Yeah. So he recruited me, and I started playing the flute, and I'm sure it was painful for my parents, but anyway, I wanted to play the flute, so I actually practiced it. And when I was 15, we went to Paris to live for a year. And when I came back we had been living in Spring Valley, which is a suburb of New York. And when we came back, we lived in the Village, and this was in 1969. So it was just when, like, all the hippie stuff and drugs and everything was starting. And I ended up getting into the High School of Music and Art on the flute. I went there to audition on the piano, but they said, "Oh, we've got enough pianists. What else do you play?" I play flute. Oh, tutti flute. Okay, you're in. So that really started on my trajectory of being a musician. At 16, I decided this is what I'm going to do, and that's when I started playing jazz. When I was 16, I had my first jazz performance when I was 16. And what's interesting is when you're a musician, what I think anyway, is that if you get good feedback from people, then it's kind of like, okay, maybe this is something I'm supposed to do.
That's
You
a
know. And I did, and I didn't know what I was doing, but
Isn't
I
that
did
always
it
the case?
anyway.
that's what I was wondering with being in the arts, especially. I feel like growing up, you might, for me, for example, I played the piano. Similarly, I hated practicing, but people told me I was good at it. But I feel like when you're in school, you get fed these messages about what a career should look like, what you should be doing to make money. So when you were like at 16, this is what I want to do and this is for me, what made you feel that way? How did you know this is what I'm going to pursue and stick to it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get those messages. I just love to play, and I think it was more of a spiritual thing for me
Well, what does that mean? It
because,
was a spiritual thing. Explain that a
well,
little
I
bit.
mean, I realized when I was 16 that I was a conduit for the music, that the music would come through me, um, and I accepted it, you know. So, and then it became a survival thing. Music has played a lot of different roles in my life throughout my life. In the beginning, it was survival. I started playing in these bands, and people kept hiring me, and I was like, "Well, if you're going to pay me, I guess I'm going to keep going."
Yeah.
You know.
So at 16,
So
is that when you first joined a band, or were you playing solo at that point?
when I was 16, I formed my
Oh,
first
wow.
band. The guy was like, "Oh, do you have a band?" I was like, "Yep." And he said, "Do you have music?" And I said, "Yep." And then I walked out, and I said, "Man, I guess I got to get a band and get some music together." Because I got the gig, So it was really a survival thing. I mean, in New York at the time, there was so much music going on,
Yeah, yeah.
so much amazing music. So, I was very ambitious and I was very good at surviving. And one thing led to another, to another, to another, to another. And all of a sudden there it was, I had a career
Wow.
in music.
Well, it's interesting. I wanted you to define a little bit more around the spiritual piece because when you talk about the spiral leadership model, that's centering, that's what I mean. It's about coming into yourself and recognizing what are your gifts, and maybe it is what is your gift. It could be either or, and being centered in knowing that this is what I'm here to do, and I'm just going to let myself be a conduit. I love
Yeah.
that you said that. And we so often look at our careers as transactional, when if you look back, that's why I love the spiral leadership model. If you look back at your life, there are similarities that are bringing you to the space that you're in now, that usually are your gifts. I'll give you an example. So I said I majored in voice in college. It was a big thing. I always loved to sing. That was my thing. I've always loved music. And I made a decision because I'm a 60s, 70s, well, more 70s girl. And I just didn't want to be involved in the scene of the drugs and all of that, but I knew I could sing. My daughter probably would agree with me. So I knew I could. What did I end up doing? Well, in order to survive, I got into sales, and then sales led to one other thing. And then I sold commodities. And the next thing I know is I'm teaching people how to present. Then I'm on the stage presenting, which is basically using my voice.
Right. exactly.
I was meant to be on the stage one way or the other. And part of the reason I was so excited about interviewing you is because I could see the thing that moved me about you is that you could see the passion, the love, but also the synchronicity and alignment with your instrument. And I think I would encourage a lot of women who are listening, look at your life. If you look at there is a path. There's a continuum. That's probably the best way to put it.
Right.
And to look at the gifts you bring to the table and watch how they connect. Because I think that the things that most women bring to the table have nothing to do with transaction. It has everything to do with heart.
Oh
I'm just
yeah. I
saying.
mean,
I'm just
yeah.
saying.
I mean, it's interesting that you're talking about that model because I'm pretty much my whole life I've meditated, and it's always been about keeping my center and keeping my. It's not just keeping your center, but it's also keeping your self love and your self respect and your self empowerment and and I always notice, like with John Coltrane, why do I feel so connected to John Coltrane? Um, I don't know if people know about him, but he's one of the true innovators
Yeah.
True
of,
innovators in
of
jazz.
jazz. Was his concept was, well, if I get myself together, then I will be able to reach other people on a more universal level. And I've always stayed focused on that kind of path. And it's almost as if it's an interesting phenomena, right? Because it's if you're not full of self-love and self-respect and self-acceptance, you might think, oh, that's selfish, but it's not selfish because the more you go inside, the more you can reach other
Mm-hmm.
people. It's an interesting concept. And I think a lot of women have so much fear about being who they are and
I
and
agree.
being and expressing their passion. Um, and I was just lucky. I was just so into survival that I don't know if I was aware of all that, but because I mean, often most of, and still now, I'm always around men, and so I had to learn how to deal with men as a side person, as a leader, and they're not as scary as you think.
They're not as
They're
scary. I
probably more
love that.
scared of us than we are of them, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time, but it was interesting. Like on Wednesday, I went to a Hare Krishna
Mm.
temple, and in the beginning of the year, I went to India and really was able to observe the interactions between men and women and how so many women do not feel like they're have self-empowerment, and it's very male dominating. So I went to this temple, and a friend of mine who's very well known in the temple, we were playing kirtan. You know what kirtan is? Devotional singing and
Hmm.
devotional chanting. um, so he brought me into the circle of so many men. It was only men, and the women were on the periphery. Some of them could sing, but I could see their energy of how they didn't feel centered. They didn't feel comfortable, and I just wanted to like reach out to them and say, "Just do your thing, man.
I love that.
Just
Just do
do
your
it.
thing. I'm
Just
doing my
do
thing. You
it.
do your thing.
Yeah.
Just do it."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the men, the reaction to me, first of all, because I'm not Indian, I've got all this white hair, I'm white, and I was like, well, here I am, so deal with it, people. I love you,
Yeah.
here I
Yeah.
am. I'm
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
I really love that. One of the things I was thinking about going into this conversation with you is life lessons that can be taught through not only music, but jazz in particular, because I feel like jazz has such a special place with in music. It doesn't really fit the mold. So I was wondering, and this seems like one of those moments for you where music is just unifying. It doesn't matter who you are or what you look like. But what are some maybe life lessons that jazz has taught you that you notice that really has shaped you through music?
Well, jazz. Sonny Rollins just said this. Sonny Rollins is a very famous saxophone player, played with everybody. He said, I don't like the word jazz and I don't like the word
Mm.
improvisation. I would prefer to say instant composition.
I love that. I love that. Instant composition.
Instant composition.
Spontaneous even.
Spontaneous,
Yeah.
instant,
Yes.
and I want to be able to answer the question. So jazz, playing improvisational music is not just sitting in that space when you're playing the music, it's your life. It's the way that you approach life and you allow things, you might have this incredible gig at like, I don't know, Lincoln Center, and then the next day you have a $50 gig in a dive. And the lesson is just keep playing, just keep centered, just know that wherever you are, you're there because you were placed there by the
Mm.
divine, and just reach everybody you can possibly
Right.
reach,
Right.
but you're not doing it really consciously. The conscious thing is sitting home and practicing your scales and your articulations, and the subconscious is integrating all that. And then when you're going out to play, that's the super conscious, and that's where you just surrender and you say, okay, I'm here and I'm here to play, and I hope what feels great to me will feel
Mm.
great to
Mm-hmm.
you. But it's not, it's just a spontaneous thing that
Yeah.
happens. So I think what jazz or improvisation music has really taught me is how things change all the time, and it's okay, and you kind of stay in the
Mm-hmm.
flow,
You show
you
up
know.
as yourself, loving yourself, and flow. The rest takes care of itself.
Well,
Yeah, but then
yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
and there's also
Mm.
boundaries, because there's situations that you find yourself in where people are like
Yeah.
not cool, so you have to be kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing that, but thank you for
Mm-hmm.
asking.
Mm-hmm. And that's
You
Hmm.
what,
know,
Hmm.
I've had situations, yeah, where I remember once I did this festival with my group, and I had a substitute bass player. We were playing one of my original tunes. This cat started like counting the tune off. And so I stopped the band and I turned around and I said, "Hey man, thank you so much for trying to help out. I really appreciate it, but I got it.
I love that. I love that. I
yeah.
got it. I got it.
I got it."
There's something interesting that you just said. And I've been teaching people how to present and to talk to the press and in the media for over 30 years now. And one of the things that I always say is that all of us were born with voices, so we all have the potential to be great communicators. And I'm going to say great. What makes the difference is practicing the skill sets. Practicing the skill sets. And you just said that. You get inside of you know what you want to do, be, say, have. But you practice the skill sets so that it gets into that subconscious level or that unconscious level, and it becomes conscious when you go to express. Then you can let go, and that's where improvisation, even in speaking, happens
Right.
because you have the fundamentals of presenting. You have those skill sets. So once you let go, and Nia's an athlete, so I'm sure she can relate to this. Once you get those skill sets, you practice those skill sets. Then when you let go, your 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 spontaneous self can take
Mm-hmm.
over at that point. And that's where the beautiful presentations happens. That's where someone will sit down, and I've had this experience myself when I present. I know that I've tapped into the audience because my skill sets anchor me, and then I can allow my genius, that's the best way to put it, to flow through. The
Yeah,
genius flows through.
and to me that's a very spiritual experience because I think ultimately we have no
Mhm.
control. So when we align our will with God's will and just say, okay, I'm sure you could do this better than me. So and just
Let it
let it
happen.
happen.
When I was doing research about you and about playing the flute and just the history of flutes, all the things, one of the things that I discovered, and I feel like I've heard this before, but it really stuck out to me because of what we do here with Women Express and speaking with Impact. But the flute is the closest to the voice when it comes to how the sound is produced. And the
Right.
vocalists do similar movements and actions to produce the sound. I was like, what an amazing combination to have you here today, because it really is expressing yourself using your voice. And I don't think people even realize how essential flutes are to music, and that it's in a lot of our favorite songs, whether that's rap, hip hop, jazz, classic. The flute transcends because it's so close to the voice. I just thought that was so special and exciting when I learned that.
Yeah, that's very true. And the flute and the
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
drum. The flute, the voice, and the
Yeah,
drum. They're
the
really
heartbeat of music.
right. Yeah.
They're the heartbeat. It's interesting, let's be a little bit on the celebrity and selfish look at your careers. Who are some of the big names? You mentioned John Coltrane. You couldn't have gotten any better with that, because last night I was talking to my son about John Coltrane, and he really wants to be the John Coltrane of his field because he so
Mm,
respects the magnitude of what John Coltrane did for jazz. But
right.
who have you worked with? You've worked with some greats.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. So I worked with Wallace Roney for a while. Do you know who Wallace Roney is?
No.
He was Miles Davis's only
Oh, wow.
protege,
Wow.
and of course the way I met him was like all divinely orchestrated. I didn't even know who he was. I was at this club and I was like, oh, look at this guy. He's pretty cool. Then I found out about him. Then his piano player called me and said, um, you need to come to this studio. I was teaching at the time. He said, go home, get your flute, and go to this studio. They had music that Wayne Shorter had written for Miles,
Mm.
and it had been given to Wallace to play. Um, so I ended up being what Lenny White calls the straw boss of the band. So I was the one that took care of the music, made sure everybody was good, blah blah blah. I figured I better do something. I'm just a flute player, but so there's Wallace. Hubert, I have an association with Hubert Laws.
Which is amazing.
Oh,
Hubert
he's going to
Laws
be at Keystone Corner on October 11th.
in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh, that'd
goodness.
be wonderful.
Yeah, and he usually invites me up to play, so I'm hoping he'll do that this time. I'm pretty sure
Amazing.
Mm.
he'll do that.
Send me a
Um,
text so I
Yes, we'd love
remember.
to.
okay, yeah,
Love to
and
come support that.
I mean Paquito de Rivera. He called me to do a ballet that he had written. So I did some work with him, and I think it was last year, maybe the year before, I played a festival. He was on the gig with me, or we were both on the gig with Bill, who's my piano player. I mean, there's just been a lot of people that I'm kind of amazed, like, here I am next to you, and now we're next to each other. How
Now we're
cool is
next to each
that?
other. Yeah. How cool is that? I mean, something that was very interesting about your beginnings is when you were 6, your teacher said, your piano teacher said that you have rhythmic. That stuck out with me. You have rhythmic experience, and one thing, or inklings. One thing I noticed about when you were playing is how, and you were playing whose music that night?
I think it was mostly Chick Corea's
Chick
music.
Corea. I mean, and if we might be getting over a lot of people's heads out there, maybe not, but this is Latin. This is music from Latin, Chick Corea, and it's very rhythmic. And you have this flute, and you're making this flute go with all of that rhythm. That was so impressive to see because you think of a flute and you think about this thing that's kind of lulling you, but to watch someone take a flute and make it move with the rhythms, Latin rhythms, is really quite incredible.
I think that was what I was saying. Like one of the biggest standouts when I was doing research about you was realizing in music where flutes come in. I don't think people realize how much rhythm a flute has. Similar, you think of like lullabies or classical music, but flutes really transcend every genre, truly.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
I mean that pretty much comes from my stint of so many years playing Latin music, playing charanga music, which is a
Love
Cuban
it.
music originating in Cuba, and also incorporating the French trio of piano, violin, and flute. Anyway, there's a whole workshop that I do about that, and I don't know. I mean, I was just pretty much in flow. I was so happy I was working, and I was eating and paying my rent. It was like, whoever calls me for a gig, I'm cool,
Right. Is there a
But,
specific project or group or accomplishment that you're the most proud of over your career?
um, well, let's see. I got a grant from Chamber Music America in 2017, and then I put together my jazz quartet up in New York, and we still, whenever we get together, the music is everybody is so in sync with each other. It's pretty amazing. So I'm really proud of that particular group, and I'm trying to find musicians in the Baltimore and DC area who can kind of emulate the same thing. We're going to be playing at Tacoma Station.
That's right by my house.
Um, on
Yeah.
Oh yeah, October 26th with a good group of people. I'm playing this. What's today? Friday. Tomorrow. I'm playing tomorrow at as part of the Contemporary Arts organization with Barbara Grubbs, and I've got a really good group there. So having a quartet um, with musicians who are really good musicians, and there's no like man woman issues, there's no weird vibes, there's just let's just play the music. There's no ego, there's no, just there's no
So
weird stuff.
you're the one putting
Yeah.
together these groups? What do you
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
do
they're
you
my
look
groups.
for? Like what do you have a tendency to be drawn to in who you have join you?
Yeah.
Um well, first of all, they have to be really kind to people. I
That
have to
word's been
feel
coming up a lot lately. I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean they have to be able I have to feel their energetic frequency, and make sure that that we're connected. Um then they have to be, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but they have to
I
be
love
badass.
it.
Of
Yes.
course, they have to be badass. I mean, that's why we're interviewing you. I mean, we're doing this kind of, spiritual, cerebral conversation, but the real reason why I asked you to come because you were on that stage being a badass. I, I mean, I mean, other than the female vocalist, which many vocalists are women, but the bottom line is she's standing up there with this flute, and there were two different kinds, but you were at this flute doing this rhythmic music and being a badass. And that's why you're here, because we want to inspire in our listeners that ability to be a badass. Just Go to your center and find out who you are, and then just let loose, express, be a
Yeah.
badass, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is, then there's like the 20,000 hours that you have to
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
practice,
you do.
you know,
Yeah, you
you
do.
know, and then there's all your baggage and your issues that you have to deal with and your ego when you want to do something and it says, yeah, but you're, and you're, and you can't, and you
Yes.
have to say,
Yes.
this is who I am, and thank you all for sharing all of the baggage, all the egos, all the voices. Thank you all. I love you all, but I'm going to do what I have to do. So, see you later. I'm going to
I
do my thing.
I love that, because one of the things that, thank you for sharing. I mean, for those of you who are listening, here's the formula. Tell all that self-talk that's negative. Thank you for sharing. You go sit over here, and I'm getting ready to go over here and be a badass. Right?
Yeah, but
Right?
it takes a while.
It
You have
takes
to.
a while. I still work on
Mm-hmm.
it myself every day. I woke up this morning with some kind of crazy stuff all over my head, and it's like, are you serious? The bottom line is you do have to talk to yourself. You do have to create your own music about yourself, and then stay on that path, because all of the
Yeah,
little what we call bugaboos, even in presenting, I tell people, you're going to get up and you're going to start presenting, and then all those little bugaboos are going to come up and say, well, you should have said that, and you should have done this, and why did you do that, and you can't do this. It's true in life in
Mm-hmm.
general, and that's what you're sharing with us, right?
yeah,
Especially for women. I think we suffer from it more because the society as we know it tells us that we can't be badasses. It tells us that and even more so today, is telling us, oh, you should be in the kitchen cooking, when my inkling about life, my calling in life, my whole way of being, that's why I said go back and look at what you've been doing and bring it forward. My way of being is I'm supposed to be a badass. And badass is different for each woman, but you got to tap into that badassness and make it come on out, right? Right,
yeah.
Andrea?
It's funny. On Monday, I went to this jam session that I don't go to a lot, and sometimes I'm intimidated, but I really felt like playing. And this particular jam session, it's a very African American vibe and blah blah blah, which I'm not intimidated by. But so I went there, and the leader was cool, and I just sat quietly to check out the vibes and see what's going on. And then when I felt like playing, I took my flute out, and there were people around there who hadn't heard me play or whatever. There were people who had, and I can read people, I can hear people, energetically, and I could tell there were some people around me who were like, oh, I bet she can play a couple scales, but whatever. So I said, I just went like, shh, clear, delete, and I went out and I played, and I felt really comfortable, and people went wild.
I love it.
And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool,
Mhm.
and I always honor the fact that I'm in alignment so the music can come through me, and I always honor the fact that I know I'm not doing it, that it's spirit that's coming through me. So when the spirit is really coming through me, all those other voices, the light that I create, the white light, the
Mm-hmm.
golden light, they're just like, oh, I guess we can't talk to her now.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I guess we can't talk to her now. I love
It's
that.
like there's too much
I
light
love
around
that.
here.
It's too
So
much. Can't talk to her right now because she's in a zone. I can't be there.
Mm.
That's wonderful. And you can create that. That's why see, I'm so excited. That's why I love the spiral leadership model, because the model itself, I work with corporate women, and it's, sometimes I have to kind of cloak where I'm going. But now that we're all out of the bag, the reason for the spiral leadership model is to help you get to that
Mm-hmm.
experience.
right.
Because when you're in that experience, centered in yourself, knowing that this is right, with the practice that you put behind being who you are,
Right.
when you go to express, all those little all those little missy bugaboos have to sit down when they see the power of who you are. They have to sit down. They can't stand up. I love that. I'm going to
Well,
listen to this over and over and over again.
but I always try to bring it down to that I am the conduit, because the second that you say, look what I did,
Yeah.
all the light goes,
Yeah.
phew, they just disappear. Because it's not, to me, that's not what it's about. It's really about, it's about this other thing.
When did I'm a very tactical person. Some people would say it's because I'm a Virgo. I don't know. But how do you, or was there a moment where you realized that, like, oh, I just have to turn this over to being a conduit? Or when you have those moments where there's the noise from yourself, there's noise from the ego, there's noise from outside energy that is affecting your internal thoughts, what do you do to tap into, no, I just need to let go and channel? Or how do you get to that place of letting your light shine?
Well, in 2016, probably the end of 2016, I've always been into on my spiritual path, but at that point I said to myself, okay, it's time to release the ego and just be in my heart when I'm playing music. And I kind of catapulted myself into the dark night of the soul, which I don't feel like I'm in now, but it can come at any time. And it's really a process of feeling everything, feeling the effects of all the events and feeling all the feelings of things that have happened, because it's all about the body, and allowing them to come up and out in order for the light to come in. And it's a very, very intense process. I recommend it to only the courageous and the very strong people, because it can really kick your butt.
Yeah.
So I went through that.
And in layman's terms, what she's talking about is self-mastery. It's about aligning yourself with something higher within yourself. And I do believe that it does throw you into a dark night of your soul, but there's mastery that comes beyond that. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
And taking
that's
it even
fine.
down, maybe one more, is kind of those moments of looking at yourself in the mirror and dealing with your patterns, dealing with traumas, dealing with the hard things you never want to look at, and really looking at them and dissecting, which can be such a challenge. And it's not something that happens overnight. I'm sure that this was a long process.
No, I was pretty much on the couch for a year.
Yeah.
And it was really, really powerful. Then last September, the same thing started to happen. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I know you. You're the dark night of the soul. And I can do this because I've done this before. So I know what it is. It wasn't as powerful as the previous one. But I think sometimes what happens to people is something happens in their life which just changes them. It could be an accident. It could be a loss of somebody that you really love. It could be just something that happens, and then it's almost as if you get like smacked on the head. Like, okay, I got to change. Something has to change. It's not going to be easy, but it is so necessary for my well-being. And it's actually kind of the path that I'm going in right now. I mean, I'm still playing music, but I'm also learning about a lot of skills for counseling and for
Mm.
healing.
Well, this is perfect, and I love how our podcast has a tendency to do this, and it might just be the energy of who my mom and I are. And we haven't said, and I don't know if you know this about us, but we practice transcendental meditation. But my mom has been on a long life journey through TM and is really the reason why I'm on this earth, because she met my father through that program and that process. So I definitely feel
Nice.
divinely present on this earth. And I've been talking about it on a few of the episodes I've been on recently. It just keeps coming up because I would say yesterday was my 33rd birthday, same age as Christ, which means a lot to me. I think it's really special. But I've been going through kind of this metamorphosis in the last year of finding myself, I would even say since like 2021. And I'm
Yeah.
being called to ask you how. I feel like my biggest hurdle is I am love. I am so filled with love, but I struggle finding reciprocation of love in the way that I give it. And then I also deal a lot with anxiety. So I don't know, I'm hearing, I'm going through this journey. So maybe we can just talk about it. I don't know if I have a specific question, but I just felt
Sure.
called to
It's a great
bring it
question.
up.
Yeah. Well, I think that people have an interesting concept of love.
Yes.
Now, you brought up Jesus, and Jesus was all about love,
Love.
and the receiving and the giving of love is a flow that has to constantly happen, and in a lot of different ways. And I think this could be a very long conversation. It
We,
could
we,
also
we,
be
we
a
might have to come back on it because the bottom line is most of us have been raised to think that love is between two people or
right.
people. What Jesus, and we are getting deep, so folks out there, hang on. We're going to come right
That's
back.
good.
The bottom line is what we know about love is we're talking about the greater love. We're talking about the love that every fiber of our being is made up of. It's made up of that white golden light that cherishes every aspect of who you are. That's why everyone
Right.
says love yourself first. We've made that so basic. Love yourself first. Well, what Andrea was talking about was she made a commitment to live from her heart, where we know love is.
Mm-hmm.
Live from your heart, and that itself throws you into those aspects of yourself that are so small because they can't see themselves being part of that greater love, the overarching love. That's what we're talking about. Once that starts to be a part of who you are, then the secondary stuff of loving people and all that, that's easy to do. Finding that greater love within yourself, that centered love within yourself, is the power of what love is really all about. And that's basically what was being taught by most of the masters on our planet, Jesus being one of them. I don't know. We opened
Oh
up a
yeah,
door.
no, I totally agree. And as far as anxiety and looking for love, I think the thing that gives me the most peace is to know that I'm already
Mm-hmm.
loved. I'm loved when I yell at the guy because he doesn't want to let me get to the recycling place. Because I'll yell at the guy and then I forgive myself because I am
Mm-hmm.
love. I am love when something beautiful happens. I am love when I can't seem to get it together to wake up in the morning. We are just love, and we are loved regardless, because we are human and we're all going to screw up all the
Yeah.
time. So to wait until you're perfect to be loved,
Mm.
That's not the deal. The deal is to just say, well, here I am, and I'm doing the best I can, and I know that I'm loved. And the more that you know that you're loved, the more you connect into the universal love, and then
Yeah.
you're good.
Oh,
And life is
that
good.
is really
Life
great.
is good.
I feel like in the last leading up to my 33rd birthday, it's been a sense of I've already done enough. There's not any more I can do. I've done so much self work and the self love. People are like, love yourself. I love myself so much. I'm so strong. I'm healthy. I'm beautiful. I'm kind. I work hard. I work hard on myself. I work hard at work. What more can I do? So that's such a great message of no matter what, I am love, and that's enough.
That's enough. It's really enough because all of that connecting to that greater love is
Yeah.
it. Connecting to that. The rest
Letting
will
go
take
and
care
being
of
the
itself.
conduit.
Letting go and being the
Yeah,
conduit.
because it's not out there. It's
Mm-hmm.
in you.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you really think about it, you've probably always being had. Okay, I'm not saying this right. You've always been taken care
Mm-hmm.
of. Maybe not the way that you wanted in every single situation. I mean, we've all had very difficult situations. And I think of all the difficult situations as so many
Yeah.
blessings. I can always transmute the
Into
energy
alignment.
into something amazing.
Something
And
amazing.
I might not be able to do it in that
Right.
particular moment, but if I really sit in it, I'll be like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for the anger. Thank you for the hate. Thank you for the fear. Thank you
Yeah.
for everything. I'm not going to stay in
Yeah.
it because I don't want to,
Can't live
you know.
there. Well,
Can't do
one
that.
of
Can't
the
want to.
quote that I love, I'm really obsessed with RuPaul. So many things that we talked about today, well, so many things in my life go back to him. But one of my favorite things that he's said was, you can look at the darkness, but don't stare.
And who is this? Who are you
RuPaul Charles, the infamous drag queen of the world.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't know.
look in,
Yeah, but no, but that
yes,
sounds
look into
right.
RuPaul. I usually have his book right on my counter because I take it with me everywhere. But he is, if you have a chance to listen to his book or read his book, he's just a powerful human being of change and love.
Very
But
powerful.
we've
Very
had
powerful.
such a great conversation, but I do want to give you the opportunity, Andrea, to tell us a little bit about some of your projects, what's next for you. How can we find you if we want to come out to a show? You talked a little bit about your workshops. Give us some information on how we can support you and be there for you.
Support you and be
Oh,
there.
okay. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I have a website, AndreaBrachfeld.com, or I also have AndreaFlute.com because people are like, well, how do you spell Brachfeld? And I usually put all my
Okay.
stuff up there. Um, I'm really in a period of flux right now, and I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be recording another record in the jazz field, but I don't really know. Um, but you can find out about what I'm doing definitely on my
Okay.
website. And
And
if
it's
you
really
look on
good.
Great.
Facebook,
And I think we're going to post something on probably on this podcast. We'll probably close or open with some of your music. We don't know yet once the producer figures it all out. But I really would like to have some music tagged to this podcast so that people can hear a bit of it. Because I think some of the things that you're talking about, and Nia said that, she came to this planet as a result of two parents that practice TM. And the bottom line is my life as a spiritual being who's living a human life
yeah.
is all the underground work, all the behind the scenes work that goes on with everything I do. It manifests as my ability to be a businesswoman and to be a part of a day-to-day life. But the background music is all about how I stay aligned with my inner source. And it's so important to me. It's obvious that a big reason that I got to this space of living my life as a spiritual being in a human body was music. Music was
Mhm.
the thing that transformed me. And in fact, the reason I started transcendental meditation is because I heard Stevie Wonder sing about it in one of his songs.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, if he's a genius, and if he can be even better at who he is by doing this thing, then I'm going to do it. And that's how I started. And it's been a long trek. I mean, I have other things that I do in addition to TM, but I'm so thankful and grateful that I felt this in you. And I'm going to say she may not be telling you that her next music, but I would say go to her website, because now I want to call you and let's do a deeper conversation around all of this, because I think that there's something powerful there. But I really want to encourage those who are listening, go to the center of your spiral and ground yourself there. Find who you are in those quiet moments. And when you look at that, look at over time, what have you been doing and being? Because you'll see that that's your gift. And that's the thing you want to express. I want to thank you,
Yeah,
Andrea, for that.
sure. And I totally agree with that. But the first thing that comes to me is if somebody is just getting into knowing about meditation, all of these words sound really wonderful, But then I mean, I'm a Virgo rising, so my next thought would be
Yeah.
where,
Hmm.
how, what do I do, you know? And I would say that um, the first thing is to really get to your center. And then if you go on YouTube looking for these, different people or different topics, to really feel your body when you see somebody or you hear somebody talking and say, does that feel like truth to me? It could be 5 million followers,
Mm-hmm.
but if it doesn't feel like truth to you, don't
Right.
go with it.
Bingo, bango, bongo.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of, not just women or not just men, but a lot of women don't trust themselves to go with what
That
they
gut feeling.
feel, you know, and say, well, what is that? Oh, I don't know, and just do something else. Well, because my husband won't like that, or my son will be uncomfortable, whatever. So it's not coming from a bad place, but understanding that your self-love, if when it comes first, you're just in such a better place to help other people.
So good. This is
Yes.
so good. This is so good. This is, I don't know. I don't know if you realize it. And folks who are watching on YouTube, you probably saw me turning away from the camera, but I've been
Same.
taking notes like a crazy person.
Same. It's such a fruitful conversation.
It is such a great one. We will have to have you come back. And certainly when we do any of our face-to-face summits, which Women Express will be doing, I would love to
Yeah.
invite you to be one of our guest speakers
Yes.
at that. So
Oh yeah, that would be
Yes.
fun. I'd love
it'll be a
that.
lot of fun. And you're going to be hearing from me, because when we first connected anyway, we both said, we got a lot in common. We need to
Yes.
stay in touch. So you'll be hearing from me, and I'm glad you're going to be down here doing some things in the Washington, D.C. area. But Baltimore is like
I'm
5
obsessed
steps
with
away.
Baltimore, so any chance I have to go up there, I'm in. Count me in. But definitely this upcoming show on October 26th at Tacoma Station, that's so close to me, so I'd love to attend. I see I can get tickets here on your website. So
And
yeah,
you'll see, Nia, that when you listen to her, she's going to
I
transform your
can't
life.
wait.
So thank
Thank
you,
you so
Andrea. I
much.
really, I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And for those of you who are listening globally, go to her website, have an experience. I know we're talking about different places in the Washington, D.C. area. We haven't forgot you, our
Yes.
global friends. So that's why we want you to go to her website, and then hang on, either the beginning or the end, or maybe both. We're going to play a little bit of Andrea's music so that you can have that
And we'll have all
transformational
the
experience too.
websites and the
Thank
links
you.
in our bio, so you'll be able to access it. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Big
Great.
hugs, lots of
Thank you.
Yes.
kiss straight from the heart. Thank you
What
so
we
much.
Thank you.